Hello students, welcome to Trunkie Academy. We are studying about the natural resources, and uh, under this we studied about the air, water and water cycle. Okay, now today we will study about the some other important cycles of some important uh, substance like nitrogen cycle, oxygen cycle and carbon dioxide cycle or carbon cycle. Okay, so first we will start with the nitrogen cycle. Okay. Okay. Yesterday we studied about that the water cycle is important for uh, the living organisms. Okay, when the water evaporates when due to heat of the sun. Okay, and it goes up, rises up, and it forms cloud. Okay, and when it forming cloud, it is condensing. That water vapor are condensing into liquid water, and that when it rains falls down to the surface of the earth, so again this will be evaporated and goes up, and this water cycle will continue. Okay, so this was about the water cycle. Now in case of nitrogen cycle, nitrogen is a gas, and in the first class when I started this chapter I told you air comprises of different gases. Air is a mixture of gases where we find nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide and some other gases, dust particles, etc. Okay, so nitrogen is present in the maximum quantity. When you talk about the composition of gases in air, so nitrogen is the maximum in air. Okay, because the percentage wise it is 78% of the air consists of nitrogen. So nitrogen is nitrogen present in maximum quantity in air. So nitrogen is present in maximum quantity in maximum quantity in air, and it is about 78% of air consists of nitrogen. Okay, so it is also present in all life forms in the form of protein, amino acids and nucleic acids. Okay, so it is present in all life forms. It is present in all life forms, whether it is bacteria, even virus also, whether it is microorganisms, whether it is a unicellular or multicellular, whether it is the lower plants or higher plants, whether it is the thallophytes or algae or bryophytes or the pteridophytes or flowering plants, non-flowering plants. Okay, whether aquatic plants or terrestrial plant, lower organisms, the aquatic animals or terrestrial animals or the arboreal animals, whatever type, all living organisms. It's found in all living organisms, in all life forms, and in the form of, it is found in the form of protein, amino acids and nucleic acids. So it is present in all life form. Present in all life forms in the form of protein, amino acids and nucleic acids. Okay. So this nitrogen is present as one of the component of these compounds like protein, amino acid and nucleic acids. Okay, so nitrogen is one of the important element, or you can say element important important element for the living organisms. Okay, So in atmosphere, it is in molecular form. Okay, that means nitrogen N2. In atmosphere or in the air, it is in molecular form. Molecular form. Okay, that is N2. Now, the plant of the atmosphere, the plant uses this nitrogen for in the form of nitrates and is converted in this form by nitrogen fixation. So, plant require also, and it is the essential nutrient, elemental nutrient for plants, and plant requires this nitrogen, but in the form of nitrate, and this uh, conversion of nitrogen into nitrates, that is called the nitrogen fixation. Okay. Okay, so plant requires nitrogen. It is important nutrition for plant. Plant requires nitrogen. Requires nitrogen. Okay, in the form of nitrates. Okay, nitrates. Not molecular nitrogen is required, in the form of nitrates oxide. Okay, so the conversion of nitrogen, molecular nitrogen, to nitrates is called nitrogen fixation. So by nitrogen fixation, plants are able to utilize this, okay, nitrogen. So it is an important elemental substance in protein, amino acids, and nucleic acids, as it is present in all life forms. Okay. It is also a very essential nutrient for plants, and plant requires this nitrogen in the form of nitrates, and this formation of nitrates takes place by nitrogen fixation. Okay, so all the leguminous plant, like especially leguminous plant like pea plant or other leguminous plant, okay, that produce pulses, contain nitrogen fixing bacteria in the root nodules. Okay, so leguminous plant like pea plant, okay, they have plants have root nodules having nitrogen fixing bacteria. Okay, so these leguminous plants like pea plant and other leguminous plants, they have some root nodules. Okay, so what they have, the roots are like this. Okay, if this is the roots and this is the branches. Okay, okay, so these root will have some nodules on their roots, branches of the roots, okay, on the surface, and these root nodules contain nitrogen fixing bacteria, which are responsible for fixing or formation of nitrates by using elemental, or you can say molecular nitrogen. So that is nitrogen that is present in the air. Okay, so nitrogen that is present in the air. So these bacteria, so N2 converted to nitrates by N2 fixing bacteria. Okay, where in the root nodules of the leguminous plant. So these bacteria play very important role, because uh, in case of this nitrogen fixing bacteria, they are actually living in symbiosis. Okay, they are getting their food and shelter in living in root nodules. Okay, and in turn they are providing nitrates, a nutrient. Okay, they are converting a nitrogen into nitrates, which is required for these leguminous plants in which they are growing. Okay, on the root node. So this is the about the nitrogen thing. Now, another point is that okay, so these bacteria convert nitrates, and when now we will write another important point. Okay, when animals consume the plants, it breaks down the nitrogenous compound. Okay, that we have some kind of waste is produced in our body, nitrogenous waste product. That is by breaking down the nitrogenous compound. Okay, so when animals consume the plant. Okay, when we eat the pea seeds or pea plant. Okay, consume the plant, it breaks down the nitrogenous. It breaks down the nitrogenous compound. Okay. When animals or plants die, some bacteria carry out ammonification and produce ammonium ions. So that means the proteins, the protein part, okay, which contains nitrogen, okay, as one of the composition, or you can say one of the part of that compound, okay, elemental compound. So that is by the action, when decomposition is going on, when decomposition starts, the bacteria decaying these dead bodies of plants and animals, they carry out the ammonification and produce ammonium ion. So dead living organisms, dead living organisms. So they by the action of here we will write uh, we'll write nitrogenous compound in nitrogenous compound. Okay, so when we are talking about the dead living organisms, so we are considering about here at this point a nitrogenous compound in living organisms. Okay, so by the action of decomposing bacteria, okay, bacteria or decomposer bacteria, okay, decomposer. Okay, so what will happen? They do carry out ammonification and produce ammonium ion. Ammonium ion. Okay, so NH4 plus ion. This is the ammonium ion, and this process is called ammonification. Ammonification. Okay, so this is called ammonification. Okay, so that means in case of the molecular form or elemental form, that is converted to nitrates by the action of nitrogen fixing bacteria that are present in the root nodules of leguminous plant. But in case of the compound, okay, which contains nitrogen in the living organisms, okay, that is again converted to ammonium ion, because when animal dies or plant dies, okay, the decomposition of this living organism starts, and the decomposer bacteria, when they act on dead and decaying dead and decaying organisms. Okay, when they act on dead and decaying organisms for decomposition, they are converting that nitrogenous compound into ammonium ion. The nitrogen part are converted into ammonium ion. This process of formation of ammonia is called ammonification. Some of the microorganisms convert the ammonia into nitrates, again reduced back to nitrogen and released back into the atmosphere. So what happens? This okay. Some of the bacteria then again converting this okay into the nitrates, and these nitrates are again reduced to nitrogen and then released into the atmosphere or air. Okay, so this is by action of some bacteria. Okay, not all, but some bacteria, they even change this ammonium ion into nitrates, and these nitrates are again reduced to nitrogen gas, and then it is released into the atmosphere. Okay, so this changing or converting of this nitrate into atmosphere, this is called denitrification. Okay, so conversion of nitrates into nitrogen is called nitrogen is called nitrogen is called denitrification. 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 Okay, so this is one of the important point. Nitrification, that means the conversion of the nitrogen into nitrates by the bacteria that is present in the leguminous plants, and these are called nitrogen fixing bacteria. When the nitrates are converted into nitrogen by some bacteria, then it's called denitrification. The process is called denitrification. So this kind of the cyclic process goes on. Okay, so what happens? This is the nitrogen cycle, where we see the molecular or elemental nitrogen is converted into the nitrates. Okay, and when the plants they form some nitrogenous compound, and then when it eaten by the animals, these nitrogens are present in the animal's body in the form of protein, nucleic acid, or protein, amino acids, and nucleic acid. Okay, when these plants and animals die, the decomposer bacteria act on these organisms to break down into simpler forms, and while doing so, they are converting the nitrogenous compound into ammonium ion by breaking down, and then this process is called ammonification. Okay, but there are some bacteria which convert this ammonium ion into nitrates, which are reduced to nitrogen. Okay, and then this is called the denitrification. Okay, so so this is how the nitrogen cycle keeps going on. Okay, now we come to the oxygen cycle. Then we study about the oxygen cycle. Oxygen is one of the important constituent of our atmosphere and is also the main components of our water. and you know that in H2O also we find that there is the oxygen, okay, and it's the main component of the air in the atmosphere, because all living organisms require oxygen for respiration, okay, for breaking down their food molecules to produce energy, okay. So because so it is an important constituent of our air atmosphere. So oxygen, O2, important constituent of atmosphere, okay, or air, and also main component, also main components of water, components of water, okay, in H2O we know that. So it is nearly 21% of oxygen is present in the atmosphere or air. So if you talk about the percent wise, okay, it is 21% of oxygen is present okay 21% of air, 21% of air comprises of oxygen, okay. So next highest, okay, you can is the oxygen. Highest percentage is the nitrogen, and after that oxygen is the second highest component, second highest, quantity wise, of your volume wise, let's see. So oxygen is the second highest, okay. And this oxygen is play a very important role in the sustenance of life, because this is the gas which is required for the breaking down of the glucose molecule during respiration in living cells, okay. So this plays a very important role in sustenance of life, and also in the during the being the part of the water molecule, okay. It also plays a very important role in the for all living organisms, okay. So in during respiration, okay, so respiration, okay, during respiration what happens, oxygen is taken in, O2 is taken in, and CO2, carbon dioxide, is released, okay. In case of photosynthesis, it's just opposite, okay. This is in the process of the respiration, okay. So this is happens in the respiration. In photosynthesis, it's just opposite. Photosynthesis. So what happens here? You can see CO2 taken in for the process of photosynthesis, and O2, oxygen, released as byproduct, okay. So this is in case of the just opposite. So this respiration and photosynthesis are actually they are balancing the concentration of oxygen and carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, okay. So this is the significance of the photosynthesis and respiration as well. They are actually balancing the concentration of carbon dioxide and oxygen, okay. This carbon dioxide which is released during the respiration by animals, okay, or even by the plants also, that is utilized by the plants for photosynthesis, okay. And the oxygen which is released by plants during photosynthesis, that is utilized for respiration by animals, okay. So thus they are balancing each other, okay. These processes are balancing the oxygen and carbon dioxide in nature. Okay, so this is about the oxygen. Okay, then now we come to the, now you see, so what happens, we'll see one diagram. I'll represent with the help of diagram. This is the, suppose a plant, this is a tree. So this is the tree, okay, and the tree has got some branches, okay, and the main tree trunk. Then this is this is the ground level, okay, and this plant is releasing the oxygen, okay, and this is then goes to a animal, okay, to the by respiration, for respiration, respiration, okay, and animals, okay, for example you can say man, okay, for respiration, and then from respiration carbon dioxide is released, carbon dioxide, and then again it goes for photosynthesis to plant. So you can see how this is repeating. Okay, so these are the, you can see both are photosynthesis and respirations are thus interrelated and interdependent. Okay, so both are balancing the concentration of carbon dioxide and oxygen in the atmosphere. Okay, so this is, oh, okay, now we come to the carbon cycle. Okay, now this is also very important. When we say carbon cycle, means we are talking about the elemental carbon. Okay, carbon is one of the very unique compound. Okay, it is a very interesting compound. When you study in chemistry in class 9 only, in your this class only, in chemistry you will study compound. Carbon is such an element. Okay, such a unique element that it forms so many different types of compound. Okay, it is a very unique, very interesting element. Okay, its number of its electronic configuration, its atomic number is such that, and it's forming the covalent compounds. So in so many different ways and so many different types of compounds are formed. That is because of its that we'll study in chemistry, but little bit I will tell you here. It is due to its tetravalency, and okay, and they have got the property of catenation. Okay, so this is the two things. Due to these reasons, they are forming so many different compounds. Okay, all the organic compounds like methane, ethane, propane, all alkanes, then all alkane, ethene, methane, etc. Okay, then the alcohol, then the organic acids, okay, or carboxylic acids, then the other compounds, okay, aldehydes, ketone, okay, all this. Okay, so these are formed, they involve the carbon. Okay, so carbon is very unique element that forms so many different types of compound, and this is one of the important constituent element in living organism. Okay, so carbon is the most important constituent of all living all organic compound. So we'll write carbon is one of the most important constituent of all organic compound. All organic compound. Okay, organic compound means the compound that is found in the living organisms. So living organism comprises of this carbon compound. Okay, so many different types of carbon compounds are present, okay, in our body and all living organisms. Okay, and are found in almost all living and found in almost all living organisms. Almost all living organisms. Okay. So in the form of carbohydrate, fats, lipids, nucleic acids, these are present. So in the form of fats, lipids, okay. Then in the forms of carbohydrates, in the form of nucleic acids, okay. So these are okay. When we say carbohydrate, there are so many different variety of the compounds are comes under the carbohydrates. When we say fats, there are so many different types of substances are there are type in the in lipids and fats. Okay, so in atmosphere it is present in zero as the 0.03%. So in atmosphere it is 0.03%. Okay, plant use the atmospheric carbon dioxide for the process of photosynthesis. Okay, or plant use the carbon actually for the process of photosynthesis, and from the carbon from carbon dioxide, the form of oxides, and release oxygen into the atmosphere. Okay, they after photosynthesis, the waste product, the byproduct formed is the oxygen, and then this oxygen is used by the animals for the process of respiration, and which in turn release the carbon dioxide back into the atmosphere. So this is how uh, the the cycle goes on. Okay, this is a very important point. Just what happens the other way around, which in which the carbon cycle is formed, is that all living organisms uh, constitute major part of the carbon, because the 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 body tissues which are present in the living organism, that constitute the carbon or carbon compounds. When these animals or plants die, okay, their bodies are decomposed by microorganisms into simpler form by the action of the decomposers or decomposing bacteria or other microorganisms into simpler form, and the release carbon into to the atmosphere. So all living organisms comprises of um, carbon is present in in living organisms, carbon as a major constituent, as major constituent. Okay. So what happens when animal die, living organisms, plants and animals. So when you say plant, animals, dead plant, dead. Okay, decomposition starts. Decomposition. Decomposition starts. Okay, and when decomposition starts by the action of bacteria and other microorganisms. So bacteria are the main decomposer. Bacteria and some fungus also. So what happens? They release carbon uh, to the atmosphere, to the atmosphere. Okay, and either this carbon releasing is either in the form of the carbon or oxides of carbon. So in the form of carbon or the oxides of carbon, that is carbon dioxide or carbon monoxides of carbon. Okay, like carbon dioxide, carbon like carbon dioxide, and carbon monoxide. Okay, so what happens? So plants and animals constitutes a major portion of carbon because it is an important constituent part of the all living organisms. When decomposition, when the plants and animals die, when the decomposition starts, okay, by the action of decomposers like bacteria, uh, during and after the decomposition, they release carbon to the atmosphere in the form of carbon or the oxides of carbon, that is the carbon dioxide or carbon monoxides. Okay, so again this carbon is going back to the atmosphere. So when it goes to the atmosphere, this is taken for the photosynthesis. Okay, and this then becomes the constituent part of the food synthesized by the photosynthesis. When this food is utilized by the living organisms, okay, that goes into the body. Okay, and when the animals and plants that die, that body which contains the carbon compounds, that is deteriorated, decomposed, and by the action of bacteria and released into the atmosphere as carbon or in the form of oxides of carbon like carbon dioxide or carbon monoxides. Okay, so that is about the carbon cycle. Okay, so this was about the carbon cycle. And now you know that yesterday we studied about the water cycle. Okay, so that was one of the important natural resource. The next we studied about the oxygen cycle, and oxygen being one of the most important gas that is present in the atmosphere or air that is required for the respiration. Okay, then we studied about the carbon dioxide. As I told you yesterday, and the day before yesterday also I told you, if any one of the important constituent part in the atmosphere like carbon dioxide or nitrogen or the oxygen is missing, then there will be no life on earth. Just remember this. It's not that if oxygen is not there, so life will, no, if oxygen is present in the earth and if there is no nitrogen in the earth, then there will be no life. Just remember this. If there is no nitrogen gas in the earth, okay, in the planet earth, if the atmosphere does not contain the nitrogen, then there will be no life. If nitrogen is present in the earth and oxygen is also present, but if carbon is not present, there is no life. If carbon is also present, oxygen is also present, nitrogen is also present, if the hydrogen is missing in the planet earth, then there is no life on earth. If hydrogen is also present, nitrogen is present, oxygen is present, carbon is present, carbon dioxide is present, and if there is no formation of chlorophyll pigment and there is no existence of chlorophyll pigments like chlorophyll on earth, there is no life. Okay, so if there are so many things, you know, that is responsible for the sustenance of life on earth. It's not only the oxygen, or it's not simply water. Okay, so if oxygen is there, if the carbon dioxide is there, hydrogen is there, nitrogen is there in the earth, okay, and chlorophyll pigment is there, and if there is no water, there is no life on earth. Okay, if water is present, okay, everything is present. If something else is missing, okay, if some important compounds like missing, then also there will be no life on earth. Okay, so these different important the resources, okay, the natural resources and the constituent part of the atmosphere and the biosphere, they play a very important role for living organisms and sustenance of life on planet Earth. Okay, so this was all about the different biogeochemical cycles like the water cycles, the oxygen cycle, nitrogen cycle, and carbon dioxide cycle. Okay, so this was all about it. And the next class tomorrow again, not tomorrow. Tomorrow is Sunday, so day after tomorrow we'll meet again with another topic. Okay, so till then you will just download the DPP and solve those answers and send back to us for evaluation. So till then, goodbye, happy weekends. So see you tomorrow on Monday. Bye and take care.